We are committed to bringing you balanced, factual, and carefully analyzed updates about Iraq's economy, monetary policy, and developments that may influence the Iraqi dinar over time. In today's discussion, we will examine a story describing an interaction at a commercial bank involving Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong banknotes. Rather than focusing on speculation, we will analyze what such an account could mean, what it does not necessarily prove, and how IQD followers should interpret this type of information within the broader context of Iraq's ongoing financial reforms. The report describes a customer visiting a bank with Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong notes. According to the account, a bank employee used specialized currency verification equipment to examine the notes. The individual asked whether there was another method to validate the Iraqi dinar beyond the machine's standard authentication process. The employee reportedly explained that the serial numbers could also be checked through systems connected with the Central Bank of Iraq to verify whether the banknotes were genuine. The customer then proceeded to have Vietnamese dong notes examined, and according to the story, those notes were processed successfully, displaying the number of bills and their total amount. When the customer asked about the exchange rate, the employee reportedly stated that she could view the Vietnamese dong information, but could not provide an Iraqi dinar exchange rate, because it was not visible to her at that time. Finally, the customer reportedly ran an entire stack of Iraqi dinar notes, including both large and smaller denominations, through the machine. According to the account, several notes were rejected for additional inspection, while the remaining notes passed authentication. The interaction concluded with the bank employee expressing enthusiasm about assisting the customer in the future after observing the currency. As with any anecdotal report, the first step is separating verifiable operational details from conclusions that cannot automatically be drawn. Modern financial institutions routinely use sophisticated currency authentication equipment. These machines are designed to detect counterfeit notes, verify security features, identify damaged bills, and in many cases, record serial numbers. That part of the account is consistent with standard banking procedures used around the world. Financial institutions have invested heavily in currency verification technology because counterfeit prevention is a critical component of maintaining confidence in the banking system. Central banks issue detailed specifications for banknote security features, and commercial banks rely on specialized hardware and software to examine these features quickly and accurately. The mention of serial number verification is also worth discussing. Many central banks maintain databases or systems that assist with identifying genuine notes, tracking counterfeit trends, or supporting law enforcement investigations. However, the exact capabilities available to individual commercial banks vary significantly depending on the institution, its technology providers, and its agreements with the central bank. Therefore, while the concept itself is reasonable, it should not automatically be interpreted as evidence of any pending monetary policy decision. One interesting element of the story involves the Vietnamese dong being processed without issue, while the employee reportedly indicated she could not view an Iraqi dinar exchange rate. From an operational standpoint, there are multiple explanations that have nothing to do with changes in monetary policy. Commercial bank systems often receive exchange rate feeds from different providers. Some currencies are actively supported for retail foreign exchange transactions, while others may require manual processing or may not be available for customer exchange at every branch. A bank employee's inability to see a particular rate on one workstation does not necessarily indicate that a rate does not exist elsewhere, or that a future rate is about to appear. Banks also maintain internal permissions that determine what information individual employees can access. A teller may have visibility into certain currencies, while treasury departments or foreign exchange specialists have access to more comprehensive pricing systems. In other words, the operational limitations of a branch workstation should not automatically be interpreted as evidence supporting speculation regarding future exchange rates. This distinction is extremely important because financial markets function on verified information rather than assumptions based on incomplete observations. The report also mentions that several Iraqi dinar notes were rejected during processing, while the remainder passed inspection. This is another detail that deserves careful analysis. Currency authentication equipment commonly rejects notes for reasons entirely unrelated to authenticity. Folded corners, worn paper, excessive dirt, damaged security threads, ink issues, or imperfect alignment during scanning can all trigger rejection. Bank employees frequently rerun rejected notes individually to determine whether they are damaged, require replacement, or simply need to be fed into the machine correctly. Therefore, rejected notes during authentication should not immediately raise concern regarding the legitimacy of an entire collection. Perhaps the most emotionally compelling portion of the story comes near the end, where the employee reportedly tells the customer that she now understands why the customer has been persistent and expresses excitement about helping in the future. Human reactions naturally generate interest, particularly when discussing financial assets that people have held for many years. However, it is important to recognize that expressions of encouragement from customer service staff should not be interpreted as confirmation of future monetary events. Bank employees are trained to provide courteous service and maintain positive relationships with customers. Their enthusiasm may reflect professionalism, curiosity, or appreciation for the customer's patience, rather than inside knowledge regarding future exchange rates. This distinction helps maintain realistic expectations and prevents anecdotal experiences from being elevated beyond what the available evidence supports. Looking at the broader economic environment in Iraq provides much more meaningful context for IQD followers than isolated stories from individual bank visits. Over the past several years, Iraq has continued implementing banking modernization initiatives designed to strengthen financial transparency, improve payment systems, increase electronic banking adoption, and align regulatory practices with international standards. These reforms are intended to create a stronger banking sector, capable of supporting economic diversification beyond oil revenues. The Central Bank of Iraq has consistently emphasized maintaining monetary stability while improving confidence in the financial system. These objectives include managing inflation, strengthening foreign exchange reserves, improving banking supervision, combating money laundering, and encouraging greater participation in the formal financial sector. None of these goals depend on anecdotal reports from individual bank branches. Instead, they rely on carefully coordinated policy decisions supported by economic data, fiscal planning, and regulatory oversight. For Iraqi Dinar followers, this broader institutional framework remains far more significant than isolated customer experiences. One of the recurring topics within the Iraqi monetary discussion is currency authentication itself. As Iraq modernizes its banking infrastructure, the ability to identify counterfeit notes quickly becomes increasingly important. Reliable authentication systems protect commercial banks, businesses, government agencies, and consumers alike. Improved verification technology also supports confidence in domestic transactions, reduces financial crime, and contributes to stronger overall monetary stability. Therefore, stories involving advanced authentication equipment should primarily be viewed as evidence of operational banking capabilities, rather than indicators of imminent exchange rate changes. Another important consideration involves foreign currency handling procedures. Banks that process multiple international currencies often maintain separate operational workflows, depending on customer demand, correspondent banking relationships, liquidity availability, and regulatory compliance. Vietnamese dong, Iraqi dinar, US dollars, euros, British pounds, and other currencies may each follow different processing protocols within the same institution. Consequently, differences observed during processing should not automatically be interpreted as economic signals. The operational environment inside a commercial bank is highly technical, and many internal procedures remain invisible to customers. From a short-term perspective, stories like this tend to increase discussion among IQD communities, because they appear to offer first-hand observations from within the banking system. However, investors and currency holders should distinguish between operational experiences and confirmed monetary policy announcements. Short-term expectations should continue to focus primarily on official communications from the Central Bank of Iraq, government fiscal policy, banking reforms, foreign reserve management, inflation trends, and structural economic development. These factors provide measurable evidence that can be evaluated objectively. Individual anecdotes, while interesting, cannot replace official economic data. Looking further ahead, Iraq's long-term economic outlook continues to depend on several interconnected reforms. The country has been working to diversify economic activity, improve investment conditions, strengthen infrastructure, modernize public administration, expand digital payment systems, and encourage greater private sector participation. A stronger banking sector plays a central role in each of these objectives. Efficient financial institutions facilitate lending, support business expansion, encourage savings, improve payment efficiency, and attract foreign investment. As these reforms continue, confidence in Iraq's financial institutions may gradually strengthen, creating a more stable environment for economic growth. Currency's stability is generally a consequence of broader economic strength, rather than an isolated policy action. That principle is important for anyone following developments related to the Iraqi dinar. It is also worth discussing why authentication technology itself has become more sophisticated over time. Counterfeit prevention represents one of the most significant responsibilities of central banks worldwide. Modern banknotes incorporate numerous security features, including watermarks, security threads, color-shifting inks, ultraviolet elements, microprinting, raised printing, and embedded design characteristics. Currency counting equipment is designed to analyze many of these features simultaneously. Machines may also record serial numbers, detect duplicate notes, classify denominations, and identify damaged bills. These capabilities improve operational efficiency while reducing human error. The story being discussed today reflects how routine these technologies have become within modern banking environments. Another point frequently overlooked involves employee access levels within financial institutions. Large commercial banks separate responsibilities among tellers, supervisors, branch managers, treasury specialists, compliance officers, and foreign exchange departments. Each role typically has different software permissions. Therefore, a teller stating that certain information is unavailable on a workstation should not necessarily be interpreted as evidence regarding broader institutional knowledge. This is a common operational characteristic across international banking systems. For IQD followers, maintaining realistic expectations remains essential. Financial reforms unfold gradually. Institutional improvements often occur over years rather than days. Significant monetary policy decisions are typically communicated through official announcements, accompanied by regulatory guidance and implementation procedures. Markets respond most reliably to verified information rather than speculation. That approach protects investors from making decisions based solely on incomplete narratives. The emotional element of the reported conversation is understandable. Many currency holders have followed developments for years and naturally become encouraged when bank employees show interest in their collections. However, responsible financial analysis requires distinguishing between emotional reactions and measurable economic evidence. The value of any national currency ultimately reflects underlying economic fundamentals, institutional credibility, monetary policy, fiscal discipline, investor confidence, and market conditions. These factors cannot be replaced by individual conversations, regardless of how sincere or encouraging those conversations may appear. From an educational standpoint, this story does highlight something positive. Commercial banks continue investing in technology capable of efficiently processing international currencies. Enhanced authentication systems reduce fraud risk, improve operational accuracy, and strengthen customer confidence. These developments support broader financial modernization, regardless of future exchange rate movements. Improved banking infrastructure benefits the financial system as a whole. It also reinforces Iraq's broader efforts to integrate more effectively with international financial standards. As Iraq continues modernizing its economy, observers should monitor developments such as banking sector reforms, digital payment expansion, improvements in regulatory compliance, foreign investment trends, fiscal policy implementation, non-oil economic growth, and statements from the Central Bank of Iraq. These indicators provide a stronger analytical foundation than isolated reports from individual banking experiences. Ultimately, the story discussed today should be viewed as an interesting anecdote, illustrating modern currency verification procedures within a banking environment. It demonstrates that commercial banks possess sophisticated authentication capabilities, and that employees can process and examine foreign currencies using specialized equipment. At the same time, it does not independently confirm future exchange rate adjustments, redenomination plans, or changes in the official value of the Iraqi dinar. Responsible analysis requires separating operational observations from verified monetary policy, allowing IQD followers to stay informed without drawing conclusions that extend beyond the available evidence. As always, we encourage everyone following developments related to Iraq's economy to remain patient, evaluate information critically, and rely on official announcements and credible economic data when assessing monetary developments. Iraq continues making progress in strengthening its financial sector, and each reform contributes to the long-term objective of building a more resilient and transparent economy. Those structural improvements remain among the most important indicators to watch over time. Thank you for watching today's analysis. If you appreciate balanced, responsible, and factual coverage of Iraqi dinar developments and Iraq's economy, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video so you never miss future updates. We remain committed to providing objective analysis based on credible information rather than speculation. Finally, please remember that this content is provided for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be considered financial, investment, or trading advice, and viewers should conduct their own research and consult qualified financial professionals before making any investment decisions.